What's cracking, guys? Bruce Madsen here, your host show, Metric Scout Fantasy Football. And we're going to talk some redraft today. You guys got some drafts coming up, your home league drafts, doing drafts all week, every night, getting them in while we get football started. And I understand that. So I'm going to help you out with some videos this week, getting you ready for your big drafts. Today, I'm going to talk about 5 players that I'm fading in drafts. This was kind of hard for me because I'm very objective with players. I'm a very objective guy, so I don't always just fade or buy guys. I kind of get a little bit of everybody, but I took the time, I looked at them, I drew some cases, and here are 5 guys that I'm fading in drafts for redraft this year in 2022. And the first player I'm going to be talking about right now is Deebo Samuel, and there's a lot of reasons why. First off, the offense should be slower paced this year because of Trey Lance's rushing ability. I could see this being a little bit slower, him taking off, running the ball a little bit, running a little bit more time off the clock. Another thing is his yak per reception at 9.85. It's good. That's an incredible number. However, from fantasy production, that's not sticky from year to year. So that's something you want to take into account. And he was 36th in air yards last year. I want wide receivers with a high target share and large air yards. He didn't even crack 1,000 last year. So the deep targets wasn't coming his way. They didn't need to because he was getting that yak on those short plays. However, when you're drafting him high, you want those. You want sustainability. You don't want to buy last year's stats. And I like him as a player. I just like him a little cheaper. At 204, and this is from ADP, from 4for4 using their multi-site ADP, and it's all averaged together. So I'm giving you a range of outcomes from all the sites because you guys are drafting in home leagues. So your league could be a lot different from this guy's league. So really, this is ADP, and then I got the overall range from all the sites from ESPN, FFPC, Underdog, Yahoo, bunch of other places, MFL 10s or whatever it is. They're all mixed in there. There's like 7 or 8 sites. The 204 is an average of all of them. So that's kind of high for me for what I feel like we're getting with Deebo. The opportunity of him not hitting last year's mark. Before last year, injuries were a big deal with him. Those could creep up. He's used out in the run game a lot too. Overall in drafts, he's being valued anywhere from 12 to 22 overall. I think all of that range is highly valued. I feel like you can still get good quality running backs in that range. I think you can take better shots at wide receiver. I feel like there's too many options here to take on this risk. I like Deebo as a player. I liked him a lot coming out of the draft. I liked his yards after the catch per reception. I like that ability. I love that in receivers. I want more air yards though. I want a higher target share, especially when you're talking about guys like Brandon Ayuk, Kittle being healthy. I want to see what this offense looks like. There's a lot of ambiguity here that I don't want to invest in, especially at 12 overall, 15 overall, 20 overall. That's what these sites are suggesting at with their ADP. Definitely not at 204, 210 in the draft. I want to be very conservative with Deebo, and I think in my top 50 wide receiver rankings, I was conservative with my ranking with him as well. Moving on to my second player, I got James Conner. One thing is, he's got a high price for limited upside. I don't see him cracking the top 5 of running backs this year. I just don't see that happening. Another thing I want to point out is we don't want to chase last year's touchdowns. He had 5 games with 2 touchdowns, 2 double ups on the TDs. That helps his fantasy points, his progress last year, his production. However, that's not sticky year to year. That has a high variance from year to year, so that could decrease. I like this offense. I like it's got a fast-paced flow to it. I like that good opportunity for James Conner, but for the price, for what he is, we may not hit that upside again. Last year might have been the year for that, especially when we're living on the touchdowns, and that may not come this year. I see him being used in goal line situations and stuff, but we may not get him as frequent as we did the year prior. He's also an older running back with an injury history. Running backs getting carries. He doesn't have much competition in the backfield. Chase Edmonds is gone. more touches, more tackles, injury history. That's not a good feel overall over a course of a whole season. And now we put this to price. When we take the ADPs and we average them and jam them together, on average 307. That's kind of like on the high end, because in some of my drafts he's going a lot later than that from my experiences. However, in home league drafts, guys chasing running backs, you may get them a little higher. Overall in ADPs, again, mixed bag from like ESPN to FFPC with the big boys, 23 to 37 overall range. I don't really like him at all in that range. Maybe back to like the 37-ish, 40-ish spots, maybe a little later. But this is the part of the range in our drafts where we're still going to have good wide receivers on the board. The 23 range, there should be good running backs, younger running backs, more sustainable running backs, still on the board left to take shots on. I feel like the wide receivers in this area is where I want to be at. I want to get my running back sooner. If I'm going to go running back early, I want to get one of the top guys and maybe hammer the wide receiver spots. This is why I'm kind of fading him. I feel like for a running back, considering running back's injury rate is a lot higher than other positions, and the price, depending on where your league's at here, some guys are going to be drafting him at that 307 mark because people are doing it in these ADPs. 23 overall is really high, super rich for my blood. 37 feels rich for my blood as well. And remember, there's also ADPs in the middle of that. So it's somewhere in that range for him. That's high for me, especially here in 2022. Third player we're going to be looking at today, Terry McLaurin. He's good. I love him. I love him as a player. I want him on all my real football teams. I like him in Dynasty. I think he's a very stable asset, but we also want to look at the upside. I feel like the floor of this offense, Carson Wentz there, slinging the rock, this could create a low volume situation. What if Jahan Dotson is good? What if he starts stealing target share? What's going to happen with this team? I need him to have a good amount of touchdowns this year. I want him to touch double digits, and I want him to hit a 30% target share because I want him to chase upside. When I say chase upside, I'm talking about top 10 in scoring, top 5 in scoring, and PPR. I think the volume might affect that. I'm not going to lie, this slide is jacked up a little bit, but when we look at overall price tags, it's a large range here because he's a good wide receiver in a bad offense. FFPC, higher stake leagues, they're counting that into his value, where you're talking other places like ESPN, Yahoo, they're still valuing him as like 2 years ago. 37 overall is a little rich for my blood because it's a little riskier. However, back towards that 50, 52 range, 45-ish to 50, somewhere around there, I like that. I like that a lot. For Terry McLaurin, I feel like in that area of the draft, you're going to be getting good wide receivers in volatile spots or with a narrative that makes them a little bit volatile. So I'm not afraid to invest in them because they will give me production. I'll just have to play with the matchups a little bit more with them. But at that cost, I feel like the floor is good. The floor is going to be steady. However, I'm also, when I'm paying a high price tag, 4 or 5, 37 overall, 40 overall-ish, I want to shoot for upside. And that's what I'm scared about with Terry McLaurin. I'm more scared about Carson Wentz. I love him as a player, though. Moving on to the next one, David Montgomery. And there are some things to be scared of here. This coaching staff is not married to him. They could be leaning on Khalil Herbert. He has looked good and has earned more touches, more opportunities. There's also a low-volume offense. We cannot say this team is going to be fire. We can't say this offense is going to be lighting up the scoreboard. We can't say that stuff. No one's saying that stuff on the internet. We're not going to be saying these guys are going to be putting up 40, 50 points per game. That's scary overall. Price point is huge with me. Some leagues, he's getting drafted pretty high, 32 overall, 35 overall range, late 4th round pick in some leagues. I like him better at like 5th, 6th. However, at that point, I may be going wide receiver over him anyways. I would like to have my running back stabilized at the top end and then pound wide receiver or just completely pound wide receiver overall. But you do need to get them running backs. I just like to pick and choose. I also would like to take gambles on running backs at the latter part of the draft. At the 64, 60-ish range is fine to pay for him, depending on how depleted the wide receiver position is, and also what else is there at running back. There could be other running backs that you may like better, or something falls down the board. The last player we're going to talk about today, number 5, is Elijah Mitchell. The team invested heavily in running backs this year. He's been dealing with a hamstring issue, but he's supposed to be back for week 1. We will see come week 1. Again, this could be a lower volume offense, but I'm not super worried about this for the running backs because Lance's running ability should open things up for the run game. I'm just worried about his volume, if that's still going to be there. I'm also worried about how quickly this team's going to keep up the pace when they're running their plays. I don't know if they're going to slow things down even more, or if Lance's rushing volume could take away from the running back's rushing volume. That is there in the range of outcomes. But the price, some people are paying an early 5th, a mid-5th here, per ADP all jammed together here. And ADPs is going anywhere between 40 and 70. I like him better around the 70 range. I don't like him in the top 50 whatsoever. There's a lot of good wide receivers in that price point that I want to be getting on my teams, and I don't want to be taking risks with running backs. I will take this risk at around 70 overall or so, depending on what else is on the board, but I'm not paying the piper for him at 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, ADP, which some of these sites have him listed at, and this is current ADP that has been pulled from today. I like him better around 70 overall or even later. I feel like he will fall in some drafts, but that's it for the 5 guys that I'm fading in redraft this year. Let your dumb friends draft these guys up. Let your other league mates have them, and just find the value. Find safety and chase upside. Wide receivers, chase the air yards, chase the targets. More importantly, the target share. The larger percentage of target share, the better. I want my alphas to chase around 30%. Therefore, if it's a plus matchup, they may have a very good chance to cook. Running backs, I want to chase volume. I want to chase guys in good situations. I want to chase guys that have an offense that is fast-paced, but that's the same with all players in fantasy. Fast-paced offense that are explosive are players I want to chase. Let me know who you're fading in redraft this year. Drop in the comments below. Smash that like button. Really helps the video on the algorithm. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because I got more fantasy analysis coming at you on the channel all this week to help you for your drafts, and then all throughout the season. And you know, once the season's over, we're going big time on the draft for Dynasty, Devy, and everything else. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.